Hoopers. This is for my Juneau intermediate class. This is just a broad overview of everything we did. There's one review video up through class 3. I'm going to quickly move through those as well. So you have everything in one video. So we did escalators without a release. We did escalators with a release and a catch at the top. And we did reverse escalator down. We did a variety of tosses, so just basic toss, toss up and over in the arc, toss on the same side, back, and toss kind of out of a weave on the alternate side. Again, I'm going to break these all down separately in separate videos. This is just an overview. We did a wrap around the neck, wrap around the booty. We talked about various kind of folds and rotations, both on and off body, including, we talked about this kind of forearm pass and unfold that we do a lot. We talked about it within the context of a combo from a wrap. Again, I'll break this all down. We talked about transitions from kind of out in front, out to the side, and that can be either be a roll across with a dip or in more of an isolated movement, kind of half a linear isolation. We talked about this little move I do a lot, which is leading with the pinky and rolling behind, which can go into any number of things. And again, that kind of requires a little bit of a grip switch or shift, so that it's not kind of as awkward of a movement. And again, I'll break that down separately. We talked about one-handed isolation, so we had already done this two-handed isolation in a previous class, or in our fall class. So we talked about one-handed isolations and what I call an isopop. I know technically it's not called that, but what I called an isopop. And we'd also done a linear isolation in previous class. I'll break that one down as well. For this roll over the back of our hand. Again, of course, I'm doing this all just on one side as I review these moves. When I break them down, I'll do both sides. We did this cross arm loop around thing, and you can do that in both directions with the same arm cross. We did this behind the back mandala, and again can go in both directions. Note that that's similar to the behind the back pass that we did out of the propeller. It's kind of half of that. We did a turn out of a reverse escalator, so this is more of a combo. So turn, pass, and pull up with the other hand. So again, turn, pass hands, pull up. We did this kind of fishtail movement. This is not, a trick in and of itself. It's kind of just more of a movement that that you can incorporate into flow. So leading on one side, leading with one of the hoops, and the other side dragging. I introduced grip switching, so we talk about this more at the end. I'll save that for the end. We talked about the this kind of grid that you can imagine. So if you imagine on a telephone, a 3x3, there's bottom center, bottom either side, center on either side, and up top. So you can imagine this 9x9 all on this wall plane. You can also imagine it going 3x3 in both, front and back as well. So I'll talk about the grid and how you can use that a little bit more on its own. We went over this turn and fold move. So turn from a fold, so having the hoop folded over in this kind of awkward arm position, and turning onto body. For me, I go into this vertical hooping, vertical on body, that we did not do much of in class. So coming out of that fold, you could also go down into a smear or escalator, whatever you feel like. We kind of went over this catch from the front, and it's not, as I was showing in class, I realized it's not a lot different than just kind of catching it like this and doing whatever. For me, I kind of come in through the front and through, and go into that pinky roll move that I described earlier. Again, it's not all that fancy or different from a different catch, but somehow the coming through the front transitions well. I think maybe because of the way that you grip it, transitions well into other things. Introduce jump throughs, so that can be a forward jump through back. One I do is a toss, where I am grabbing the back of the hoop, tossing, catching the front, which you could either do that just as a toss and do something else, or go into a backwards jump through when you catch it. We also talked about a jump through with a weave. Again, I'll break all these down. We talked a little bit about combos, so this is something that you can create. Just try putting different moves together. I went through the various combos that we talked about in class. So, for instance, the pinky roll, that can go into a smear. Pinky roll, again, anything you can fold into, so it could go into a reverse escalator. The reverse escalator into the turn and pass is a little mini combo in and of itself. The wrap, forearm pass to unfold is a combo of moves. Behind the back pass, we've always kind of only done that out of the propeller. So that in and of itself is a combo. I've talked about how I often, this roll over the back of the hand, for me a lot of the times I'll bring it behind my back and get into a reverse escalator from behind the back. So rather than swinging around this way, let's see, is that going the same way? Yeah, it's going down the same way. It's just starting from a different position. So my rolling over the back of my hand, behind my back, and over my body into reverse escalator. And then from that fold, turning into it can go into any number of things. Then we discussed grip. So we haven't been doing a ton of moves that needs grip switching, and kind of purposely, but this is really important to get comfortable with this to expand what you can do with your flow. So when we do this pinky leading roll behind, that requires a grip shift, not really so much a switch, but shifting from your hand in front, your palm facing back, to your hand on top, your palm facing down. We do kind of release and regrip. So for instance, in an isolation, we release, it rolls over the back of our hand and we regrip. Same thing when it rolls over and out, or linear isolation, same thing. Now the grip switch that we learned is going over the thumb and bringing our forefingers in. So again, I'll break this down in a minute. That's grabbing on the thumb, getting our forefingers in there. And I showed you how one way you can drill that is to go from a forward weave, grip switch into a reverse weave, grip switch again into a forward weave. And that's a good way to get comfortable with that grip switch. Throughout the class, we talked about different elements that you can incorporate to make your flow more interesting. So you can incorporate level changes just on moves that you know. So for instance, a smear can look like this, or you can do a level change with it. Turning, kind of anything. Again, I'm just kind of showing with the smear. You can incorporate turning. And that's a really interesting way to take moves that you know and make them look more interesting, or discover new moves through turning while you're doing moves that you know, and it kind of forces you to figure out how to make that work. Direction changes, so you might be going in one way, stall out and go the other way, whether that's off body or on body. And extensions, so fully extending your hoop out, are some different elements that you can bring in. Also, body movement in general. So rather than sitting here and doing one movement, you know, incorporating your whole body into it and whatever. I mean, that looks maybe a little silly, but you can see how it's more interesting than just standing here doing a basic move without moving the rest of my body. One of the most important things to consider is what your other arm is doing, because a lot of times people have a tendency to, you know, do the T-Rex arm, hold it here, just down by the side, doing, you know, one thing with their other arm. You can kind of mirror what your other arm is doing, or follow it around. Katie Emmett has some great videos where she talks about body awareness and incorporating movement into your flow. And I've talked a number of times about different ways that you can kind of start training yourself to be able to kind of get into this free flow. One way is to just go really slowly through movements, and you know, from here, what can I do? I can rotate my hoop. Okay, what can I do? I slid across. What can I do from here? Swing it up and around. All right, and back. Turn and toss. Just, you know, from each movement, you can just take it through really slowly, where you're not necessarily free flowing in this nice spontaneous way, but it's starting to build those connections in your mind of what you can do from one move to another. One thing that I did a lot of is, once I had just kind of a basic repertoire of tricks, which you all have if you're in my class, then you can just start going through them and making it work. So doing it continuously and just making it work to keep the hoop moving. That's a lot of what I did, kind of flailing about. You will mess up, that's fine, but just try to keep it continuous. You can, like I said, put different combos together, put different moves together into combos, and kind of design those ahead of time, and then it builds those connections, so it's more of an automatic thing, putting several moves together. I kind of developed combos spontaneously, but I didn't really design them early on, just because I didn't have time. But I think that's a really powerful way to start building your flow and putting moves together in really cool ways. Talking about the grid, that's another way that you can start playing with your flow. You can, you know, think about tracing through different pieces of your grid, or, you know, different folding incorporated with your tracing, extending around. But if you're not sure what else to do, playing around with your grid and just moving your hoop in different ways through it can be kind of simple way to get that continuous movement going. So that's one example of a kind of rule or constraint I'm going to work within this grid. You might also put different rules on your flow. So like maybe I'm always going in a circle in this direction. What can I do to move the hoop through in those ways? And adding constraints can sometimes help you move freely and creatively within kind of that one rule that you place on your flow. So that, I think, is everything. And some of the moves I broke down previously, I'll group them a little bit, I think, or just individually go through all the different moves and upload those individually into playlists. So this is just a broad overview of what we did. If you think I forgot anything, or you remember, on the side teaching you something, please shoot me an email or leave a comment, and I can review those as well. So I hope this helps. And I miss teaching class. I miss you guys. And I hope you're hooping every single day.